There's unprecedented growth in the coming years. He added that India will be a key driver of global growth, taking it to new heights. Hello and welcome to Markets Forward, your go-to show where we aim to get you everything you need, the key data points, the views, analysis as you gear up for the next trading session. I'm Prashant. With me, as always, my colleague Reema. Reema, hi.
Hi, and Prashant and me are going to be with you for the next 20 minutes. We've got you covered with all the big news, key developments in Dalal Street, top corporate voices, and the big events to track ahead. But first, the day's market action. Good, all green.
I mean, the Fed gave us a sort of a bit of a relief, right? And I think we carried on, and very, very good close actually, because there have been so many things which one can kind of point out over the last many days, which did not look all that great, technically speaking. But today, for example, the Nifty Bank had been correcting for 9 sessions in a row. Today, you had a big bounce back. Broader markets, they were dithering, no real big recovery. Today, both the mid and small cap part of the market ended about 2% higher. Nifty, it was trying these bounces, but it was unable to cross, short-term moving averages, hourly averages, forget about daily averages. But today, at least, the 40 hourly average, the Nifty closed above. Now, of course, the thing is, the market's got to defend all of this as we come into the next few trading sessions. Mind you, overnight, NASDAQ, S&P, it's not as if you had a wild move. You just had a 1% rally. But then the US has not had a correction like what we had recently. So you got to keep that in mind. Dollar was lower and yields, etc., were well behaved as well. PSUs, I mean, if you take the temperature of the market by looking at what PSUs are doing, I mean, you'd say that the market's actually in pretty good shape because PSUs all came back. A whole cohort of different stocks from different sectors, and could be, I mean, the drivers could be all different. It's not a homogeneous space, but that across large caps, mid caps, small caps, I mean, clear leaders there. I mean, one just hopes now that gains are sustained and we are able to avoid large moves on the downside. Reema.
Well, the positive global sentiment also rubbed off. You had Korean markets up 4.5%, Taiwan, Nikkei, all closing with gains of about 2%. So the start was strong. The Nifty straight away opened off the bat at that 22,000 level. It didn't quite build on it. The intraday high on the Nifty was 22,800, hit sometime around, between 10 and 11. But still, it's a strong close with the benchmark indices ending with a gain of 0.8%. The Nifty above 22,000, 172 points higher. Sensex up 540 points. The mid and the small cap index rallied hard. The advanced decline ratio stood at nearly 5 stocks advancing for 1 in the red. Now, week to date, the mid and the small cap index have turned positive. While the Nifty is absolutely flat week to date, the mid and the small cap index have a gain of about 0.8%. PSUs did well, and in that, individual names like NTPC, BPCL, Power Grid, Coal India in the large cap, and in the mid cap space, PFC, REC were a couple of the other big winners. But that's the market action for you. Let's tell you what we've lined up for you on our show today. We start with the top movers of the day. Hormus joins in. The positive brokerage notes took the overall Dalal Street stocks like BSC higher. IRB Infrastructure rallied quite a bit. You also had upgrades coming through on Avenue Supermarts. So these are stocks which did quite well. CNBC TV18's popular segment, D Street Chatter, also on the show, where Nimesh joins in to tell us why Tata Motors was buzzing in trade. And last but not the least, we delve into the key market events to watch out for. But first, let's get to the movers and shakers. Hormus is with that list. Hormus.
Well, call it a relief rally or call it whatever adjective you'd like. The bottom line is that the market ended in the green. And on a day when the market moves higher, high beta moves even faster. And it was the day of high beta. And starting off with real estate stocks, which was the top index gainer after multiple days of losses. And you can see there's Sobha 12% higher, ending at the highest point of the day today. Swan Energy, Godrej Properties, DLF, Brigade, all of them ending higher in today's trading session. Metals have had a bit of a topsy-turvy run this week. And again, on the gaining side today, Hindustan Copper still in the F&O ban, as is Nalco, JSPL, SAIL and NMDC, even after taking the price cut, fell to the day's low but recovered to end 1% higher. You highlighted PSUs with a rebound, and RAC and PFC were leading the charge today. Both these stocks have corrected over 25% from their peak, but both ended over 6.5% higher. BHEL ended with positive with gains as well in today's session. But one sector that did very well today was the pipe stocks, and those stocks saw a tremendous move. Venus Pipes, High-Tech Pipes towards the close of trade saw a massive spike, 10% higher there. Gen Irrigation, Texmo Pipes and Prince Pipes also doing well. And lastly, a lot of stocks that did well on the back of positive brokerage commentary. BSE was leading the pack there, 11% higher there for BSE, 2.5% for Avenue Supermarts as well after that positive CLSA note. Petronet LNG, where Citi advised investors to use the rally to sell, so that ended lower. And IRB Infra after the Kotak upgrade ending 10% higher as well. So all in all, a very good day for the markets. Back to you.
All right, Hormuz, thanks very much. Interesting list of names today. On the show today, we have Prakash, Diwan joining in. Shilpa, Rout of Prabhudas Lilladher is also with us. Guys, good afternoon. Thanks very much for being here. Shilpa, just a quick comment on the price action. Now, you know, the thing immediately, I mean, one hopes the gains hold and there's no give back immediately. But what would you do?
I believe, this is what was anticipated also, like we've been talking. This is the range where you have support at 21,750 and then upside 22,300. This range on a broader basis will likely play out for a few more sessions to come. The sideways move will continue with a couple of days of dip and then again a bounce back. So I believe that, nothing very aggressive to be done here. Just hold on to these levels. If we sustain above 22,300, then we'll again talk about a bullish trend, reversal or, maybe continuing. And any sort of damage to the trend will also happen if we start trading below 21,700. So till then, this is a sideways, a very range-bound market.
Any specific trades, Shilpa, straight on top before we get into individual names from our side?
I believe, there are a couple of stocks that have done very nice today. For tomorrow, I believe you should keep SRF on your radar. SRF has traded above 2,500 and given a close above that. This is very positive for the stock to move towards 2,700 levels. So my top pick for tomorrow would be SRF.
Okay. Prakash, very quickly, any thoughts on the pipe stocks? Prince Pipe made a small acquisition today, but high tech, as Hormuz was pointing up, is up 10%. What's driving the entire lot higher?
So, Rima, interestingly, as we approach March and it's also aligned or juxtaposed with the election rollout, there's a huge amount of execution that's probably going to be clubbed in this quarter. From the government's water mission, the Jal, Har Nal Se Jal mission or whatever they call it. It's actually something which has seen such frenetic activity in the last couple of months that you'll probably see all these companies report some spectacular revenue growth and, of course, very decent margin growth as well. So that's probably what the market has started reading into it, because channel checks actually tell you, whenever you speak to dealers, when you speak to the contractors who are executing, that there's a lot of activity that's going to be consummated in this particular quarter. And March end will probably reflect that. March numbers will reflect that. So that's probably what the market's anticipating. And very understandably so. These companies actually only get priced well if the execution kind of, keeps itself on track. So this time probably could be ahead of what was projected as well.
Okay, shares of BSE gained following a bullish note from Investec, while Motilal Oswal gained after MK initiated coverage on the stock. Sudarshan joins in with the details. Sudarshan.
So let me first talk about BSE. The stock has surged 11% after Investec has upgraded the stock to buy from hold, and target is rupees 2,800 per share, which implying the upside of 30% from the current levels. Investec expects company to witness strong traction equity derivatives volumes, and the option market share for the company has jumped 3 times sequentially from 4.2% in December quarter to more than 15% in the March quarter. And as per estimates, it is expected to see further market share gains given rapid scale-up of BankX product. Even on the margin front, Investec sees an improvement in Q4 FY24, and currently BSE is trading at 24 times FY26 PE, and Investec believes it has potential to achieve a 45 to 50% EPS CAGR over FY24-26. And the second is Motilal Oswal Finance. MK has initiated coverage with buy rating, and target is rupees 2,000 per share, implying an upside of nearly 25% from current levels. MK believes company is a perfect vehicle to ride India's wealth, and its 2 major segments, assets and wealth management, are well propped to deliver superior growth. FY23-26 operating profit CAGR is seen at 25%. 70% of company's net worth is in equity and MF treasury assets, which is seen as an added safety margin to valuations of core operating businesses.
Okay, all right. So thanks very much for that interesting note there on Motilal Oswal. I think it trades about 20 times F5, 25 earnings. Prakash, any thoughts on Motilal Oswal? I mean, you know, they're a broker, but they're unlike some of the other brokers like Angel, etc. They've got, you know, the private investment business as well. So there is that mark to market which Motilal records in their earnings, annual earnings, unlike, I mean, Angel, etc., which is only just broking.
Oh, absolutely. I think they have the most comprehensive basket of services and products. If you really see the kind of ebbing of some of the aura around some of the other players and the inability of some of the other players not to sparkle, let's say the Anand Rathis of the world or the Nuwamas of the world, and you have India Infoline kind of losing some sheen. I'm not talking about India Infoline, I'm talking about the 360 wealth piece. So very clearly, this stands out as one of the most comprehensive, most efficient plays, and that's why it's kind of getting rewarded. But anecdotally, you know, Prashant, I just want to bring out this fact, and we could look forward to this in subsequent days on the markets as well. You know, the phase that we are going in, look at what's happening. Brokerage reports are getting acted upon. They're getting responded to in the right way. You know, whether it's the MK report on Motilal, whether it's the Kotak report on IRB, or whether the Investec report that you just discussed on BSE. The other day you had Kotak on Indigo. There's a report on Petronet LNG not being too great. So market is responding to it, which means there is smart money that's waiting to be allocated and there's no panic. That's what this behavior on report-based stock behavior tells me. So, you know, it's quite interesting to see that happen. Doesn't happen very often. But if this continues, you'll probably see a lot of flurry of activity around reports as well, brokerages releasing their views and money actually finding its way into the right kind of guided counters or you know, pockets. That's quite interesting. I just wanted to bring that out.
Absolutely interesting observation, and of course the breadth of coverage for many of these brokers has also increased, right? It's not just the top names now. People are willing to go down the list. IRB, you mentioned that, Prakash. Well, that was up about 7% or so, and that was on another note, right? This is Kotak. Vivek is standing by with just that. Vivek.
Well, that's right. So on March 14th, a very interesting transaction took place in the private InvIT of IRB. So Sintra, you know, a ferrovial company, went ahead and bought a 24% stake from GIC's affiliates in the private InvIT. So this particular transaction helped unlock value and helped the value discovery process of IRB's own stake in its private InvIT. So Kotak has gone ahead and done an analysis on that and has valued the private InvIT. What is Kotak saying? Number one, they've upgraded the stock to an ad rating from a sell that they had earlier. The target has been raised to 65 from 60. What they're saying is that the total private InvIT valuation post this particular deal comes at close to 40,700 crore. Remember, IRB Infra holds a 51% stake, which values their share of that holding at close to 20,400 crore. So on the back of that, you know, what works out according to Kotak is that a 34 rupees per share is the kind of value that they believe IRB gets out of its holding in the InvIT. Apart from that, they're also positive on the fact that NHAI, which was earlier going ahead and awarding projects on an HAM basis, has now started giving projects on a BOT and a TOT model, which is a build, operate and toll model. So now what Kotak believes is that given the fact that IRB has a much stronger balance sheet compared to its peers, they believe they are much better placed in order to go ahead and receive most of these orders. On the back of that, they continue to have a positive stance on the stock.
Thank you very much for that. Shilpa, amongst BSE, Motilal Oswal, IRB Infrastructure, all these stocks have done very well. BSE is up 400% in the last 1 year. It's about a 180% gain for Motilal Oswal, and IRB Infrastructure 133% in the last 1 year. Any of these are, you know, a buy recommendation for you?
I would actually go with BSE. BSE is actually looking very good to test again this 2400 zones from here. Keep a stop below just 2200. I believe this is all set to test those highs again.
Thank you very much for that. Moving on to another story, that's insurance regulator IRDAI has approved a series of proposals in its board meeting. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 they've likely approved the surrender value regulation for life insurers. Yash has been tracking the story very closely, joins in with what he's picked up from this meeting. Yash.
The Insurance Regulators Board met very recently, and this board meeting was particularly very crucial and important for that one agenda point which was to be discussed and an approval was expected. That was around the surrender value which is paid by life insurance companies to the policy holders in case of an early withdrawal of the policy. What we've picked up from our sources is, is that the insurance regulator has approved the surrender value regulations for life insurance companies. Of course, a proposal on this one was released by the regulator in December 2023. That proposal spoke about increasing the surrender value by as much as 2 times to what it is today. And if that proposal would have come in the form that it was proposed, then insurance companies would have been able to retain just 57%, just 17% of the premium which they collect from policyholders as compared to 57% which they retain in surrender charges today. Now, what we've been given to understand is that insurance companies had put forth their suggestions on surrender value. That was incorporated by the regulator, and certain changes in favor of life insurance companies have been approved as a part of the final regulations on surrender value. Not just that, the final regulations of surrender value are expected to be released by the regulator by as soon as early next week. What had the insurance companies suggested? One was, put surrender value depending on the duration of the surrender of the policy. So if a policy surrender, is a longer duration, then the policyholder could be eligible for a higher surrender value. But for early surrenders, the policyholders could only get lower or no surrender value. That was the proposal which was put forth by life insurance companies. We need to see what comes as a part of the final regulations on this very important topic of surrender value.
Yash, thanks very much. And as Yash said, we should have, these new rules notified by early next week, by Monday or so, we should have. And of course, if what has been proposed is in large measure taken back, it could be pretty positive for names like HDFC Life, etc. Prakash, any thoughts here?
No, I do agree. I would look at this very positively, and it seems like this is kind of, the makings of a retracement of what was plaguing the industry. This was a demand by the players very clearly, and it helps them make things easier in terms of managing the monetary part of the risk of whatever their kind of, the underlying portfolio is. But whether it's going to be very useful for all of them, that's the key question. Some of the health guys might, of course, not benefit so much, but it's the other non-life players that would benefit. So let's probably look at that. That's going to be more important. But I think it's positive, and it only makes the insurance segment worthy of investing with all these anomalies going out, and the equitable platform for this thing, the level playing ground emerging, which has been a demand for a long time.
Prakash, Shilpa, thank you very much for joining in. We now need to take a look at the top corporate voices of the day. Geeta Kapoor, CMD at SJVN, said that from their total commissioned hydro capacity that stood at about 1970 megawatts, its renewable energy capacity stood at 404 megawatts. Speaking about their largest solar project in Bikaner, she said the 2,000 megawatt project would likely be commissioned by September of this year. Meanwhile, Ashish Keher, Managing Director and CEO at Nuvama Wealth, said the revenue of the wealth management industry has grown between 15 to 20% in the last 4 or 5 years, and he believes this trend will continue even into the next year.
Railtel Corporation also came on the channel today, and the management spoke to us about the order wins that they have seen. Managing Director Sanjay Kumar said that they've secured orders worth 1,250 crore rupees in the quarter. So far, he added that while the telecom sector would contribute a smaller share of the kitty, the project business would grow significantly due to digitization drive. All right, well, with that, it's time for a quick commercial break here, but we come back with D Street Chatter with Nimesh on the other side, and of course, we'll tell you what to watch out for when we come back tomorrow, that is Friday. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You're watching Markets Forward. It's time now to get you important opinion on the markets. Manish Chokhani of Enam Holding believes that the Indian market can deliver up to 10x returns over the next 20 years. Speaking to CNBC, he also said that growth in India may be slower than that in China, but is certainly more stable.
The last 43 years since the Indian index was constituted, this market has compounded at about 17% in local terms. I'm obviously adding dividends back in there, but 15-16% return on equity has been the norm over here. And the markets, by and large, have gone up about 4 to 4.5 times in every decade. It's no different that the next 20 years, again, would see an inflection point in this country. And let's assume we just do the same 44 times and 4 times. It's 16 times higher than today. So from this index, you would not just go from a 4 trillion to 40, but you actually got a 60 trillion number in sight. And I'm assuming at some point margins will go down, or returns may go down, competition may come down, valuation excitement may come down. So a 10x from here over the next 20 years is very, very likely. China's had its own trajectory of growth, and it's been driven a lot by fixed capital investments by the government, not often yielding real returns. And you're seeing some symptoms of that in their property and infrastructure space. In India, on the other hand, it's really been the private sector driving the growth on infrastructure, whether it was ports or it's airports. So other than highways and railways, which is what the government's really been driving, the rest of it has really fallen back on the private sector, which has looked to create economic returns and not expanding, capacities 10 and 15 years ahead of requirement. Growth tends to be a bit slower in India than compared to the Chinese, overstimulated growth, but it tends to be a lot more stable.
Okay, well, that's interesting views on infrastructure from market veteran Manish Chokhani there. Well, it's time for our segment, D Street Chatter. Nimesh is here with what he's picking up. Nimesh, over to you.
Hi, Vishant. A strong recovery in the markets, but largely on back of short covering in the PSU stocks. So the PSU index ended 3% higher, largely on short covering. But in terms of individual names, the first stock is Aurobindo Pharma. That's been consolidating of late, but I understand there is follow-up buying from larger FIs for the last couple of days, and that stands in today's trading as well. So that's the first name. The second is Lupin. That was buzzing in trade today on good volumes as well. Some bit of institutional interest is back, so expect high delivery volumes in Lupin today. The third name is GSK Pharma. Been a big outperformer in the pharma name in the last few months, but now there's some bit of profit booking is visible. So there were sell flows from larger FIs in GSK Pharma today. And the last is a couple of names, Tata Motors and Nestle India. In both the names, I'm expecting large block deals very soon. We saw a big block in TCS from Tata Sons. So similar block can happen in Tata Motors, and there is an expectation of a large block in Nestle India as well very soon.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And before we go, we bring you the key market events list to watch out for. Vivek.
Well, thank you so much for that. So tomorrow, no Big Bang events. Majority of the major events are behind us. But tomorrow, quite a few important companies have held analyst meets. They're meeting interesting investors. A lot of institutional investor activity will happen. So first up, Shriram Financial meeting a whole host of investors tomorrow. HPCL, interestingly, is meeting RDI, Abu Dhabi Investment Trust. Two latest listings, Jana Small Finance as well as Capital Small Finance Banks are meeting a bunch of investors. When you're talking about Phoenix Mills, you're meeting Daiwa AMC. Symphony is meeting Enam AMC tomorrow. JSW Infra will be part of the Elara Infrastructure Conference that's been held today and tomorrow. And Soba is meeting Ambit Capital. Soba is a sharp mover in today's trading session as well. A whole host of other companies too going ahead and meeting investors as part of the investor activity that they have. Now, talking about key corporate actions to keep an eye out for, remember, BEL and PFC both will trade ex-dividend from tomorrow. In terms of economic data, none too important, but UK retail sales is something that we'll watch out for. In terms of new listing in the SME segment, KP Green Energy is the one that will list tomorrow.
All right, Vivek, thanks very much for that. That's a list of things to watch out for as we come back tomorrow. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Markets Forward. From all of us here, it's goodbye. Thanks very much for staying with us. But news and updates follow on the other side of this quick commercial break. Stay with us.